I've been
unmasked.
This might actually be like the most audible one because you probably know more about me,
Hopefully.
more than me about audio and stuff. So, and you know how to kind of control the volume of all that.
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah. So you're the first musician I've had on here.
Oh, awesome. Okay, perfect.
And which is kind of surprising because of how much of a role music and stuff plays in my life too.
Yeah.
Usually I have like actors and people in the film community, creatives like that on.
Yeah.
But I think I remember because you performed for the Creative Council, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I was performing, and it wasn't my best performance, to say the least, but
it was phenomenal.
it was okay. But yeah, it was exciting to finally showcase a little bit of my voice, because I used to be one of those people that kind of just like hid in the background and like did things for other people. But
oh, really?
You know,
like a backup singer?
no, like more like writing.
Oh,
and like,
okay,
or like I would
writer.
sing other people's lyrics for them, and then
Gotcha.
it just never was my own stuff. So it was one of those things. But you know, you grow up and you finally go, no, I want my own thing.
So what made you take the leap?
I think last year I just felt like I was in a position where I had been doing so many things that weren't me. And you know when you have like a purpose in life and you feel like this is my purpose? Well, I knew like music is a part of the purpose, and then the other part is like the messages that I give out with my lyrics and everything like that. So I felt like I just needed to take a step and finally like become myself. So I just took that leap, and then of course Joseph, who works at Creative Collective, was like, you need to do this. And I was like, okay. So yeah.
Okay. So what kind of messages do you try to relay in your songs or in your music?
So I think with like Poet, let's see, she's very like, because she's another personality I have. It's not like me per se, which is kind of why I like it. So that way it's like another personality.
Yeah.
Each message is like time traveling for Poet. So like Dark Side is kind of a message about like losing yourself to the darkness that's within you. Because we all have a good and a bad side, and you have to realize that you have your inner demons and you have to face them, and you have to realize that that's always going to be a part of you. And if you can't face those, then you'll never be like fixing the patterns that keep causing you to fall down over and over again.
Right.
Which then leads into another song, which is called Feel This Way. This one comes out hopefully next month.
Ooh.
I've been pushing it back. But that one's about kind of, I forgot the character that anyways, it's basically about like going up a hill and you're constantly falling down. And you have a big boulder on your back and you just keep climbing and climbing and you just keep falling and falling until you realize once you get to the top that your happiness was all the way through the problems that you faced to even get there.
Oh, I love that.
Because once you get to the top, you got more shit you're gonna have to deal with. Sorry, pardon my language, but
I cuss like a sailor.
Okay,
They're
cool.
used to it. Yeah, cuss all you want.
It's like awesome. But basically, for me, I'm like, when you deal with a lot of crap throughout the hard time of getting to where you want to be, you then realize that where you want to be is where you are now.
Yeah.
And like, if you don't realize that now, then when you do get to where you want to be, if you're consistent, you're not going to be happy, and you probably pushed people away and just all this stuff. I mean, I learned it a little bit, and then I've watched a lot of people do it. So
I've had firsthand experience with that. I've gone through and chased stuff that created artificial happiness. It wasn't my happiness. It was what was projected happiness.
Yeah.
Things like chasing money. That was a big, tough one for me because obviously you see on like social media or influencers and they're flexing and they're having all this and you're like, oh, that's happiness. That's fulfillment. And then when you have it, you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. But you have to like keep up this image. And it was like the most disgusting feeling ever because I was like, I'm not even happy doing this shit.
Oh, yeah.
This is just like, I'm just doing this because it's the cool trend. It's the cool thing to do, you know?
I think and this is not a very popular, take on this, but I honestly think that social media has kind of dumbed us down and made us all think that, we don't have to do anything to make money. Yeah. And I think that you do have to work hard. I think that the reason depression has gotten so bad for a lot of people in general in today's society is they don't know who they are. They've lost what they're meant to be in life. And it doesn't mean that you have to work hard to get to where you want to be, but you do need to put in the effort and learn what hard work is in order to accomplish your goals.
Absolutely. That's where it separates, I feel like, the quote unquote like one hit wonders from those who sustain their success, because you see from, like, especially in the entertainment industry in all levels, those who have sustained it had to work their ass off to get there. But those who had that one little thing that went viral, they don't sustain it. They're popular for a year or two, but then they drop off because they don't know how to sustain it. They haven't put the work in to understand what all of the effort that you have to do to maintain it is.
Yeah.
And, like, especially when it comes to music, that's a huge thing with, like, one hit wonders. You'll find, like, one person on YouTube, or, like, especially with the creation of TikTok and Instagram, you see these people who are, they create a song and it's a banger. It's amazing. It's the coolest thing ever. And it might even get them a record deal. But then the record comes to them like, all right, we want 12 albums by 3 months from now.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
And if you don't, we're dropping you. And it's like, it took me 3 years to make this song. What are you talking about? 12 albums?
Yeah.
Are you, like, that's not humanly possible. And it's like, you're a musician, right? And it's like, well, yeah, I am. It's like, cool, get to work, have fun.
Yeah.
If you need help, let us know. We can maybe hire a ghostwriter for you. And it's, I don't know, it's a whole interesting dynamic in that. So I'm glad that you kind of brought that up, because it eliminates this almost like false sense of immediate success right when you get into something.
Well, that's the thing too, is like people forget, and I think like any artist too, because I studied film in college as well, and I did sound design, so Foley sounds if you need one.
Oh wow, okay, so you're a jack of all trades.
Yeah, but basically I notice in any art form, if you don't have a mentor or someone that you look up to, for me it's like Prince, David Bowie, Etta James, Joe Cocker.
Okay.
I watch, and like, friggin', why am I blanking? I blank every day. I'm gonna remember. But essentially, any of the greats you see, they weren't great right away. And they followed someone that they loved. And their creativity was from something that was their truth. And I think a lot of these artists who are younger, like, you don't know who you are. So it's okay to, like, consistently try to figure yourself out. I think I've, like, reincarnated myself. I'm 31 now. I don't care if I tell you my age. Yes, I know. I look young. I know.
You do look very young.
Thank you. Take care of myself. But I think that I came to the realization that you're going to consistently reinvent yourself over and over and over again. You're an artist. You're not the same. No one's ever the same. You have the same core values, though. And if you don't have those, you need to figure those out first.
Absolutely.
Because even in the film world, like working on sets and seeing actors, you have amazing actors on set and they just get burnt out and don't want to do it anymore.
Absolutely.
Because it's like a one-hit wonder sort of thing. It's like they think they want it until they realize how much work, how much life you have to give up. It's not about clout. It's about actually putting your ass in the seat and doing it.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that too, because so I have a coach, like an acting coach here.
Oh, nice.
And yesterday in class, he was saying that, like, everyone says they want to be an actor, but they don't realize the reps and the energy it takes when you're sitting in your trailer for 12 hours, pacing back and forth, trying to get ready for character. And then you go on and you did the scene. Awesome. Now do it 12 more times, but in different ways each time. That's what separates the greats from the goods. Because it's those people that aren't on there for clout, aren't on there for, oh my God, look at me, I'm on a set. It's those people that sit there and they dive into the character. They do the reps it takes, like with I'm blanking too.
It's okay.
Heath Ledger.
Oh yeah.
For him, he didn't just be like, I want to be the Joker and then just go on to be the Joker. For him, he literally kept a journal and wrote in his journal and locked himself in his hotel room for 30 days straight, writing in his notebook as if he were the Joker.
Yeah.
And then when he was on set, to get himself back into character, he would reference back to this journal to get him back to this character. And it takes that kind of attitude and that kind of willpower to get into something, especially when requires such emotion. And like with singing, I can tell when someone's bullshitting from a mile away with their songs.
Oh yeah.
I can tell when I listen, like that's why I'm very, very picky on the music I listen to, because I don't want to listen to someone who's just in it for the dollar figure. For me, I'm like, what this sounds like to me is you hired some guy that can rhyme a couple words together. You hired the best producer you can find who can make a really goddamn good beat, and he's the one that should be getting the credit for this song and the millions, not you.
Yeah.
You just have an annoying voice that's auto-tuned.
And you could afford to pay
Exactly.
to get help. Which, no judgments on that end, but it's like I had, I have I still, I guess I have an acting coach in New York too. His name's Robert. He calls it, and I use this with music too, because music to me is like acting.
Right.
So it's called the window. So like in those character moments when you're developing, what do you see out the window when you look at your character? If you're in that third person visual, if you're staring at your character in that scene, what do you notice body language wise that they're going through? Same with music, but singing. It's like, okay, I wrote this song, so let's talk about Escape It All. That's another song that's going to hopefully come out within the next couple months. Pray for me, people. But basically, that song is called Escape It All. It's essentially about the Matrix, and it explains how like we're living in a simulation. And the simulation is that everyone uses their cell phone as that reason behind why they do things. That is how you prove yourself in the world today, instead of just being, as you'd say, unmasked and hiding from everyone and not allowing them to see it.
Right.
Which I think is pretty funny, because I used to be that artist, and I knew a lot of people in New York were like, you're so freaking talented, why aren't you doing this? And it was for me like a fear, because I was afraid to be seen, because I knew my trauma and my, past. And I was like, I don't want people to know this. But as I've gotten older, I realize whatever you've been through, you can help other people.
Yes.
Because a lot of people go through the same things you do.
Yes.
So allow yourself to put your shit out there. Do it tastefully, though. That's another thing. And then also realize that look through the window. Look at yourself as a person, and then look at yourself in third person. I think like that's why Poet is so close to me, is she's a part of me, but she's not me.
Yeah.
But I can develop her in a way that is fitting something that I know I was going through in that time I wrote those songs. What am I saying?
So kind of like you're working with this character instead of trying to push this character away, or like you're kind of learning to work with yourself, but through a different type of being.
Exactly.
Is that kind of what I'm...
Yeah, and it's like, okay, maybe you have two personalities.
Yeah.
It's fine, though, because if you think about it, Beyonce was Sasha Fierce. So I think how Beyonce did this, and, I don't want to like get told that I'm wrong or sued or anything, but like with Sasha Fierce, I think that's how she had her power to be that sex symbol, that aggressive goddess that she was, and then Beyonce. And then once she left that alone and realized Beyonce was Beyonce, well, that's when Beyonce bloomed. And I think for me, it's like Poet is like my Zorro. It's like Poet is like the daughter of Zorro. She likes to hide. She's an anarchist. She likes to save the world, but she never judges you. But she always puts you in your place.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is this Poet character, is this kind of going to be, and this is going to be a really bad like reference, but like a Slim Shady to the Eminem type of thing? Like you're going to create like a whole atmosphere for this character, or is it like a one-time song type of deal for
No, so she is like a whole, like, I'm trying to find someone to help me create a comic book for her, because I would like her comic book to explain, like, it's the end of times, essentially.
Yeah.
And so she travels back in time. She figured out a way to do it, and she tries to go and fix the problems that are happening by just booping the people in that scenario to wake up from the situation they're dealing with, so they don't deal with the ending of being a demise of humanity. Gotcha. Essentially, not in like a dark way, but but she keeps time traveling to like learn more and more, and then once this EP's done, the next one's going to be her, but it's in a different time period, in a different place, and it's more lessons that she's learned as she's gotten older. Okay. And it's very confusing, but very understanding in my head.
I get it. Yeah. So are you going to be taking like a period of time and just Poet's mindset and writing in her thing, or are you trying to like balance of like, okay, sometimes I'll write as her, other times I'll write in other characters or something?
I think so. My band that's helped me out with Poet, we also want to start our own separate band. That way it's, when we play certain music, people don't think it's just Poet, and that's the confusing part, because if you look at other people, like Allison, who's in The Kills, and then she's also in Dead Weather with Jack White. She was able to be in multiple bands and like do her thing while still keeping her name. I think for me, there's music that I would have my own name with my band, and then there would be songs that would be Poet to convey the storyline that Poet's falling in.
Okay.
Right now I'm working on new music, and one of the songs is like more towards like my other band, and then the other music is towards Poet.
So you have two separate bands with like completely different musicians and...
Same musicians, but just me. I'm like still the front woman in the band, but it's not Poet. She's more me, if that makes sense, which is a very confusing thing because I'm like still learning if I should just keep Poet as the full me, but Poet's her own story.
Gotcha.
And that's why I don't want to confuse her with the other music because it won't fit the timeline, if that makes sense.
So how would this look in a show if you have both Poet's band and your band playing the same show? It's the same musicians. How would that transition look like? Would you guys just like take off shirts and then put different shirts on, or
I think how it would probably be is like we'd say Poet and that way you know that it's certain parts of my songs and then the other songs are our band's songs.
Okay.
And that way it's not confusing. Or if we get booked and we just want to sing our band songs and not do Poet songs, then we can just be that band's name, if that makes sense. Which, no, we don't even have a name yet, which is really funny. But I love my guys. I have no complaints.
So would that be able to do two different record deals then? With like, you want a record deal with Poet, or do you want a record deal with this other band?
I honestly am at that point where I want to be independent. Because I think when you get signed with a label, they try to control you.
Yeah.
The only way you make money is through your sales on tickets as well as your merch. That's, to me, not why I want to be performing. I don't want to be, I have to go on tour and sell all this merch so I can make my money. I would rather develop the character that I have, meet other artists, bring them in, collaborate with them, have our own, like my producer, he's trying to start his own label. And I would join him because he's independent, and he's not controlling, and he doesn't want to take your money from you. He wants to help develop you so that you can do it yourself. Because at this day and age, we should all be doing it ourselves, essentially.
Yeah. So I don't really know entirely everything about what the professional music industry looks like. So what's the difference between a regular record label then and an independent record label?
So independent is more like you have more of a say as an artist in an independent world. It's not, I don't want to say it's not as highbrow because it can be if you're talented. Like Billie Eilish, she wasn't signed and she did amazing for not being signed. I think now she's signed, but she wasn't signed for that first album and she crushed it. So I think you just need someone that can like kind of help you maneuver your way into creating a deal with a bigger label. Because I say I want to be independent, and then of course, like if a big label came up to me, I'd be like, okay, but I'd have to have my own rules.
Yeah.
Like
has to be like on your terms.
Yeah, and a lot of labels are like, who are you? So you got to like make a name for yourself first before you even want to join a big label. Because I used to shoot music videos for labels, and I must say, first of all, the price that they would charge for you to shoot a music video was absurd.
Yeah.
Absurd. And then second of all, the artists usually were like not happy because they weren't actually doing what they wanted to do because they didn't even know what they wanted. And the person that was managing them only saw a dollar sign. They didn't actually care about the artist. And if they did, they weren't being heard by the label because, they wanted a music video that's like 10 grand and they're only giving you 5.
Yeah.
And you're like, how am I going to make this work?
How long have you been in the music industry?
A long time.
So for someone who's trying to start off in it, what are some of the biggest things that, like, if someone were like, hey, I want to be in the music industry, what are some do's, don'ts, what path should I take, or how can I stick to myself but yet make a career out of this?
I would tell someone to not rush. So I would tell people to look at certain artists like Tom York and Beck. 2 of my favorite artists, love them to death. They take a long time to put an album out. They take a long time, and it's okay. Because certain music is so good because a person grows with it.
Right.
So your stories that you write, that you sing about, like it took me a while to get to where I am because it took me a while to understand who I was. And until you can understand who you are as an artist, you won't, in my opinion, you won't be as good as the greats unless you do that. So that's number one. Number two, don't trust everyone. There's a lot of snakes out there.
Oh my God, yeah.
There's a lot of snakes out there. And there's a lot of people that are going to be like, oh, well, if you do this, then I can get you here. And it's like, okay, I could join this pop group. I could sing these songs. I could hate myself, and everyone says sell yourself. And a lot of these artists have who are known, and no judgments, but it's very, 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 very hard to like deal with that persona that you create from that and then escape.
Okay.
Then I would say also protect yourself, have someone that can like manage you, even if it's a friend, or get a mentor that can walk you through the music industry. Also try to learn all aspects of the music industry. Even if you're a singer, you should know everything, because when someone comes at you and lies to you, you want to make sure that you're like, yeah, that's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
Because I've been screwed over because I didn't know what was going on. And then later I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, I should have gotten money from that. What was I doing?
Yeah.
But you live and you learn.
I definitely agree with especially that last point, because in any type of creative business, you are a business at that point. And so either you need to bring someone on that can think business-wise, but that has your best interests in mind, or you need to take some damn business classes or learn how to do business yourself, because especially with being in the creative industry, emotions can get a hold of you so easily. And that was one of the first things I learned in my entrepreneurial journey, is you can never decide or make decisions with emotion. You have to let it, like, okay, and that's not to say you're not allowed to feel emotions, but it's like, okay, you just said something that pissed me the fuck off. I have to take a step out for a second, process what you just said, and then come back and be like, I understand what you're trying to do, but this is not going to work.
Yeah.
I understand that I might not be the biggest actor, I might not be the biggest singer, but what I can deliver is the best quality stuff. So if you can work with me, I can work with you.
Yeah.
If you can help put me in front of eyeballs, I'll give them something to look at. If you can do this, I'll give, like, and you have to learn things like negotiation tactics, not to argue, not to sit there and be like, well, go fuck yourself, okay? You don't know what you're doing, because then it's like,
you look immature.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I don't want to sign you. I thought I did, but I don't want to sign you, or I don't want anything to do with you. When all it is just a communication, because you're still technically talking to a human being. It might be a business human being, but there's still room for negotiation. There's still room to be like, look, what are you trying to get at here? Why did you call me? Or we're having this meeting for a reason. We both have something in mind that we want to get to. How can we reach this point?
And in this industry too, in film and acting and singing and really anything, the only thing a business person is looking at is money.
Yes.
They only look at you and they think, how can I market you? Or how can you market yourself and I don't have to do anything? And if you show a struggle in the beginning to them, they are not going to want to put any effort into you. You almost have to like pretend to be exactly the package they want. And then once you get signed in the way you want to, then you can cause the chaos that you want. That is usually how it works. Don't quote me on it. Sign me. I'm just kidding.
Well, no, that's honestly how it is. Sometimes, like, the creative industry is a dirty industry.
Yeah.
Especially when business gets involved. Because like you said, it's dollar figures that they're looking at. They don't care, honestly, about the other emotion or this or that. If some guy who's a piece of shit's going to make him $1 billion in a day, they'd rather definitely sign him than somebody who, like, okay, well, if we do this, and we invest, like, a bunch, like, unless for some reason you're God sent to them.
Yeah.
And they're like, you are the next Billy Joel. You are the next Elvis Presley. I'm going to put everything into you. But you have to find that person that's like, I don't just believe in this business.
But even with Elvis, he got used.
Oh, yeah.
That's my other thing with artists.
Yeah.
You get used. If you don't have a backbone and you this is why drugs are bad in the music industry. This is why you can be controlled with any substance. Unfortunately, I've seen it. And then, you also, if you watch the new Elvis movie, it shows it.
Right.
But essentially, when you don't have a backbone for yourself, it's going to hurt you. Because people will use you even if it's your manager, you could get a really awesome person in the beginning and they look at you as a dollar sign.
Oh, absolutely.
And then they'll let you do your thing, but then they'll probably try to coax you to do other things. They'll take more money from you than you should allow them to. And then they end up becoming, you know, like a psycho. Like, look at Selena.
Yeah.
She got killed by her manager. Like,
Right.
managers aren't bad. They're good. But you want to make sure you can trust your manager because
Yeah.
that's going to be your godsend.
Well, and there's a lot of people that, like you said, are bullshit people. They'll be like, I'm a music manager. And it's like, well, who have you managed? And be like, well, you're going to be the first. But I know business, and trying to go into that, like trying to find someone who knows multiple aspects in the business. It's like, well, if you're going to be taking on such an important part of my life, then you have to understand actual marketing. You have to understand business. You have to understand the lingo that these people are going to say. But understand also that I'm a human being as well. So you're not playing with a toy.
Yeah.
You're not playing with whatever. You're playing with someone's life. You're playing with someone's livelihood. Yes, they might want me to play 20 shows in 1 month, but I have mental illness. How can I do that when every week I have one breakdown? I might produce the best music ever, but it comes from a dark place.
Yeah.
So sometimes I need some time to recuperate myself. Like this, my girlfriend was telling me about Taylor's tour this year.
Yeah.
52 shows in less than a year.
Yeah.
For me, I'm like, I don't know how that's physically possible. Like, that's literally minimum.
Well, that girl's got like a million songs that come out of her butt.
I know.
So I feel like, you know.
But even then, it's a 3-hour set. It's not even a regular concert to where it's like, okay, well, we have openers that are they're the first 4 hours, and then you only have to perform for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
She's performing for
3 hours.
For 3 hours. And that's literally doing at least 2, maybe up to 4 shows per week across all these different places. And that's not counting travel time. Obviously, yeah, she probably has like a tour bus or a private jet or whatever.
Those are like so hard to like.
But even then, elevation change or food, who knows? She could get sick during this. Yeah. And that's literally probably 6 shows that she's going to have to miss if she gets sick.
It's like what happened to Lady Gaga, and I think with Selena Gomez too, is you overstress yourself, and then you end up getting in a place like that. That's why like mental health for me is like, I have an autoimmune disease, so yeah, I've had people go, how could you go on tour? And I'd be like, well, I can. But there's going to be like a level of like, I'm just not going to have as many shows as that. That's just insane. Not to say that like she's doing it and she's crushing it.
Right.
But for certain people, you don't have to do that. And I think as an artist, like when you go on tour, you go on tour and you have to do a certain thing. Okay, fine. But like there's also, if you have your own control, like independent wise, then you can make your own timeline and know, okay, I can do 2 weeks in a row, and then I need like a week. Yeah. And then I can do 2 more weeks in a row, and then maybe I need like 3 days, and then I can crush it out another 2.
Right.
Because I feel like the mental health industry is so lacking.
Oh, 100%.
And it's insane that we don't focus on that more as people, and we're so like, put your head down and freaking run, and not, hey, look up and realize you're running yourself into the ground.
Yeah.
You're in a hole. You got to get out of your hole, and you got to keep going forward, but look up sometimes. And for me, I feel like that's when like my depression hits, is when I'm working too much and then I'm not looking up enough. I'm not paying attention to the time that I'm having with the people around me. I'm too focused on the end result that it even screws the music that I make, or even when I'm acting or just anything in general. It's hard for an artist to realize that you put your all into something, and then eventually you got to be like, I gotta chill for a second.
I can definitely relate to that, being an actor, for the depression stuff, because the amount of rejection that you get as an actor, or even just anywhere in the creative industry, rejection is one of the biggest things that you face that people don't understand. Like, as a musician, you're going to be rejected by 100% of the record labels when you first go for it. You're going to be rejected by 90% of the people when they first listen to your songs. They're going to be like, oh, this is cute. Okay, cool. Next. Unless for some reason you're able to partner with Blake Slatton or something, or you're able to partner with one of these huge producers. It's like, I can guarantee you 10 million views in the first 2 days just because of my following alone. But when it comes to like the mental health stuff, like, I think for me, the depression comes in when I start comparing myself to others. When I start, like, as an actor, when I'm on Instagram or something and I see, oh, this person got this role, or this got this, or this person's only been in the industry for 3 months. How did they get already 2 feature films? Or how did they get this? How did they achieve this already? I've been doing this, busting my ass. Am I not good enough? And then you start going down your own little hole and stuff. And
you're breaking down your ego too.
Yeah.
Because you kind of have to have an ego to survive this world. But you also have to realize that your ego is going to constantly get broken down in any art form that we do. Because I feel that for you. I mean, when I lived in LA, I dated an actor, and he was going through probably the darkest time of his life because he was dealing with not getting any acting gigs after getting so many.
Right.
And then, you know, just dealing with the rejection. And in my head, like, I was a gymnast. I was training for the Olympics. I was trying to be elite. And I was rejected so many times that I just think of the athlete mindset is rejection is your protection. So if you're being rejected, that means it's not for you.
Yeah.
And it's protecting you from something, and you can get something better.
Right.
Because there's countless amounts of times that I've had things happen where I should have gotten it. I could have gotten it. I didn't prepare for it. But I could have booked a role as a kid in a TV show.
Yeah.
I could have gotten on other things, but I didn't prepare myself. Maybe that's also why. But I got rejected, and it didn't actually hurt me. It actually made me feel like, I could have dealt with a Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
I could have dealt with things that weren't good for me,
Right.
and maybe I would be in a ditch somewhere doing drugs, you know?
Right,
Who knows?
yeah.
So you got to always look at the bright side when you hit that, like, rejection moment and go, there's going to be more things.
Yeah, that's the beautiful part, though, especially the creative industries. It's a never-ending thing. It's not like, oh, well, there's only going to be 4 roles left on Earth for the rest of time.
Yeah.
And if I don't get one of those, I'm screwed. It's people are constantly creating new stuff. And obviously, yes, with AI and all this other kind of stuff, it's kind of getting complicated. But I personally, I don't believe that AI can take over creativity because it has to come from things like emotion. It has to come from other stuff like that. Like, I was listening to another podcast, and they were saying with AI, it has to be developed by something. It could be in the style of another thing, but you have to input that original creativity in order for it to kind of make some sort of algorithm to pop out something else.
Yes.
But you need that initial little bit of creativity. So it's a tough thing. But then I think of all of the greatest actors who they're like, I was in the industry for 20 years before I booked my first TV show or before I booked this. And it's like, oh shit, really? I didn't even know you were acting before then. It's like, exactly. I was acting my ass off. I was in short films, student films. I was doing commercials. I was doing this. I was doing that. Even my coach just admitted the other day, and I never thought he would, but he's like, I thought about quitting multiple times. But I was one of the only ones that stood out for 20 years.
Yeah.
And it landed me this and landed me that. And those moments of rejection, like you said, those are, in my opinion, those are pit stops.
Yeah.
Those are, okay, maybe it's time I increase my craft. If I'm getting, try to get feedback or something, or try to be like, okay, well, what am I not doing right? And it's like, okay, I just got rejected for 3 roles in a row. What kind of role was it? It was dramatic. Maybe I need to work on my dramatic readings. Maybe I just need to go farther with it. If I would have got this role, would I have been able to produce the best thing possible?
Yeah.
Would I have been able to make this person's vision come true? No. Obviously, I wouldn't.
And then it comes into play with they just wanted a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
God,
Unfortunately, that's how this industry is. Same with music. It's like, oh, you sound like Etta James, Joe Cocker. You have a great voice. I want the girl that uses auto-tune because she's got perky boobs and looks like she's freaking 16. You know, it's and you just kind of got to go, okay, fuck it. At this point, I think I'm at this point where any artist I meet, I'm like, fuck it. I tell people my t-shirts will have it saying fuck it. Because
I love it.
Because that's all you should think about when you meet people. And if they're nice to you but they say no, you say, okay, cool, fuck it, thank you. You know, and you just show that you don't care. Because the more you show you don't care, and I don't mean don't care and be a dick, but the more you show that you don't care and you think life is just as abundant as it is, because it is, everything flows to you consistently if you believe,
right,
then you will constantly have other gigs come up, and eventually you'll get the one that is meant for you.
Yeah. So when you mentioned your age, it kind of brought a different thing for me as well, because especially in something like acting or even singing.
Yeah.
It feels like after you hit the age of 25, 26, 27, you're no longer relevant anymore. You're not that young spruce thing that everybody wants to see.
I never thought that way, though.
How did you avoid thinking that way?
I think a lot of my friends now say I look better than I did when I was younger, and I think they're not wrong. I look at photos, and I think I looked older when I was younger. So
Really?
I'm kind of Benjamin Buttoning a little bit. But I also think that I never thought of age because I'm Peter Pan internally. And I think if you can keep that mindset, people will automatically think you're younger. And I don't tell everyone my age because, you know, I want people to think I'm younger if I want them to. But I also don't have a fear of someone going, oh, like I got an audition for this feature film and she wants me to play a girl that just graduated high school into college, and I was like, do I look like I could play that? And I thought about it and I was like, yeah, you could. I mean, with the right makeup and the right outfit and then the right personality, because it all comes down to your personality too. How young people like hold themselves, you can tell their age, versus how when someone's older they hold themselves differently. But if you can be a chameleon and you can look at age as just a number, eventually you don't look your age because it is all internal. And then you need to take care of yourself. I take care of myself. I try to do things that keep your age at bay.
Yeah.
And then I think when I was like 24, I think people thought I was like 19, or no, the people thought I was like 27 when I was 24. And I got really mad because I was like, why do I look older? And then I'm like, wait, I'm young. But now everyone's like, what are you, like 26, 27? And I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, whatever you say. That's funny because I used to find it a huge compliment when people were like, oh, you look older. Like if I grew up my facial hair a little bit more, like you look like you're like 26. And I'm like, I'm only 19, thank you. But now I'm like, I'm finally starting to hit that thing to where it's like, you look like you're 19. I'm like, thank you, that's awesome. But I think that also goes, I love that you mentioned just like taking care of yourself, because the amount of actors I've seen, like I'm in my 40s and it's like, you look like you're 22. It's like you can still play that younger thing, but so it's like you have the wisdom, you have the experience, and you have all the best parts of being older, but you have the best parts of being younger, which is being active still. You can still enjoy the money that you make, but later in life. You can still enjoy life as if you were still in your 20s.
Yeah.
And I think, because for me, my parents both, they definitely, just because of choices that they've made, their physical appearance is definitely much older. And sorry, mom or dad, if you're listening to this, but like they definitely appear older than they actually are, and that was scaring the shit out of me when I was like, oh, I'm a couple of years ago, 22, 23, getting into this industry, and there's people that are 17 or 18 that are already fully into this, making a full career, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm 24 working at a coffee shop doing this. But then there's that whole thing where it's like, wait. I'm only 20% technically through my life then. I still have 80% to enjoy. And as long as I take care of myself, as long as I continue to just make the best of everything and be present, it doesn't matter. Like I know that there's a constant fear for kids right now of that magical 30. That magical age of turning 30.
And
it's like, oh my God,
it's the best time of your life. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Really? I'm terrified of it.
No, I will say, because I used to be so terrified. Peter Pan, remember? I was so terrified. And now that I'm 31, I'm going to be 32 this year. When I hit 30, it was like every BS that I dealt with when in my 20s, I went, what the hell? Why did I deal with that? Yeah. You hit this level of understanding that, like, age is nothing but a number. Yeah. The only thing that is different is that, okay, so you're in your 30s. You know, maybe get your shit together. Like, obviously, don't go out and party every night. And, like, don't do drugs every day. And don't just hook up with people randomly and, like, say, oh, my life sucks. And it's because you're giving your energy away to people that you shouldn't be. Right. There's things that you, like, see young people do, and you just go, oh, man, you must be this age. And people go, how do you know? And you go, because that's, like, what I did when I was that age. But in your 30s, this is the best time because, one, you could glow up in your 30s. I'm proof. Two, your mental state can get a lot better because you have an ability to actually talk to yourself better. Yeah. And 3, you start to push away the toxic energy around you. You start to notice people that if they're not at the same level as you, mentally, physically, emotionally, you don't have patience. And patience is a big thing, but it's also the most beautiful thing when you get older. Because I don't have patience for certain people.
Right.
I'll be nice, but I excuse myself
Right.
when they're around. And if people go, why don't you like me? I go, because I don't have time for you. And it's not that I don't like you, but it's the fact that you haven't healed this part of you yet because you're still going through your dark night of the soul. You're going through your, let's say from the age of 20, I think it's 26 to 29 is, for a lot of men in terms of like suicide and depression and stuff, that is the hardest time because it's where you learn a lot of the pressures, the ups and downs. You fail a bunch of times. Women, it's the same thing. So sorry I said men, but it's, statistically with men. But with women, I feel like
theirs is a little earlier on.
Ours is a little earlier on because we unfortunately have the whole, oh my God, we're going to age thing, which I think I'm not.
Well, they also mature quicker than men.
They do, but I also think there's this thing, and again, don't sue me, Kardashians. I don't like them very much. Sorry. But basically.
Nobody does.
Okay, good. They created this culture where women think they got to put crap in their faces all the time and have to perfect themselves. And these girls in their early 20s look like they're in their 30s.
Yeah.
Or my age. And then I'm like, I haven't put anything in my face, but I do natural facials. I do natural stuff like that.
Right.
And I think we're in this culture now where we are getting dumbed down, we're getting mind controlled more, and I'm not trying to sound psycho, but I just mean like
right.
We're following a society that isn't real, and we have to realize that the only way we can be true to ourselves is by allowing ourselves to be ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then you can create a community of people that believe in that same thing, and then you can start to actually change the system. Because right now I think we're in a society where men are dealing with this, I need to be a man, I need to provide, I need to figure out who I am, I need to do this. And then women were over here going, oh my God, I'm aging. I'm looking like a fucking, witch. Like, what do I do? And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. You can live young. You can look young forever. It's inside you. That's what I've learned.
No, I like that a lot. And it's funny because everything that you were saying about like the steps after turning 30, like I've always kind of just like from childhood, I've had to grow up very quickly. Like I became an adult when I was 12 or 13.
Yeah.
And through that, I'm naturally, every part of my life is about approximately 4 to 6 years ahead of schedule. Mm-hmm. I did my party phase and stuff when I was 17 to 18 instead of 24 to 25.
Yeah.
And I live like in that 30s mindset now to where it's like, I got to a point to where I was like, I need to be healed. In order to be happy, in order for anything to happen, I need to be healed. It's like, I need to first get my ass into therapy.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge proponent of things like therapy. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be fucking psycho to have a therapist or anything. Yeah. It's the healthiest thing you could do for yourself because then you have someone who specializes in mental health that has a non-biased opinion, or not even opinion, but non-biased advice and professional advice. Someone who studied the brain and emotions and psychology and who can help you with healthy coping mechanisms. And obviously, yes, there's different therapists that may not work, but some may work. For me, I was lucky and I found a therapist that helps me a lot. And other times I'm like, but you have to know how to use it. You have to be like, I know I have this issue. How can I healthily deal with this issue? I have sexual trauma. Mm-hmm. How can I be better in relationships? And like kind of the first point in solving a problem is admitting that there is one. Yeah. And so, like, in relationships, when people are like, oh, I have commitment issues, and it's like, it goes much deeper than that, I promise you. Yeah. There's much deeper stuff, and that's when you have to really get to know yourself. And it's being able to get through that uncomfortability of getting to know yourself. Because for me, it was the scariest goddamn thing I've ever done. Yeah. After my last breakup, I forced myself to be single for like a year to year and a half.
Which is very good, because most people don't do that.
Yeah. But even like during that time, like, yes, like there were some people that I would hook up with or something and doing all that. But every time that happened, I realized I was damaging myself more.
And you're repeating the same patterns over and over again. Yeah.
And on top of all that, I was like, I'm not comfortable with myself yet. I still have to be around people. I still have to get affirmations from people in order to be happy. Like, I don't have my own happiness yet. How can I expect to be happy with somebody else if I'm not happy with myself? That was, I I know the whole thing with Will Smith might be controversial.
Yeah.
But one of the smartest things that he ever said, and I've applied it to my relationship, and I've quoted it so many times, is she is not responsible for your happiness. You're not responsible for her happiness.
Yeah.
You're individually responsible for your own happiness, and then you come together to share it.
Yeah.
Those kinds of relationships towards like, I'm nothing without you. It's like, get the fuck away from me then. I don't want to be your source of everything, because what if something does happen?
Well, and it's codependency.
Exactly.
And codependency is terrifying.
And that's like a trend these days with codependency.
Well, I think codependency, man, I am no relationship expert. I've been trying. I was very toxic in my early 20s, just like you.
As we all were.
I had something very tragic happen to me as a kid. And I had a death happen that was really eye-opening for me. And then I've had a couple deaths with best friends that are also eye-opening. And I think when you hold on to trauma that you haven't healed and you carry it with you, you're going to show that in every close relationship you have.
100%, no matter how much you try to hide it.
I want to apologize to Graham right now. You're the best dude. He's one of my exes, and I love him to death because he was probably the one ex I had that was like, that really dealt with me not being healed. And it's funny because now, like, I date people and I'm kind of like their awaker. Like, they're like, oh my God, I need to fix this within myself. I can't be with you. And it's almost like, great, you know, but at the same time, it's kind of a good thing because at least you're not with someone that's faking that they're okay and perfect, even though no one's going to be perfect. But here's my other thing with this is you don't have to be perfectly healed to be with someone. No. Because you're never going to be healed. It's a constant struggle and battle. You're going to get triggered by weird things that you never even knew you'd be triggered by. And you got to be able to have someone that's like, you good?
Yeah.
Because you do need to be able to lean on someone, but you don't need them to be the reason that you're going to be okay.
You don't even need them. Like, for me, I feel like it's more healthy to know how to check yourself, though.
Well, I agree, like, but I will say, like, training in gymnastics the way I did with Romanians and Russians, it is not okay to never feel pain.
Oh, no.
I never felt any pain. I broke 14 bones. I kept competing when my bone was sticking out of my ankle. When I tell you, if you go to that level, that's kind of psycho. And it's at a state where you then don't know how to actually be emotional with anyone. So you need to be able to talk to people. But you don't need to, I won't say lean on, that's the wrong word. You do need to be able to have someone be able to hug you. Yeah. Because a hug is all someone needs sometimes to just be like, okay, I'm alive, I'm okay.
Well, and the whole thing with checking, because I literally just dealt with this the other week with my girlfriend. I have a history of having what's called as an anxious
attachment.
Yes, anxious attachment, meaning that every so often, like every time, I think that something's going to happen. I think that I'm always on edge in the relationship. Is she going to do this? Is she going to do that?
Do you run away?
No, actually, I do the opposite.
Okay.
I run to them. Oh my God, are you okay? Is there something? Am I doing something wrong? Like, that was me. And that was, I immediately came to realize that was one of the reasons why relationships never lasted, because nobody likes that. Yeah. Nobody likes to be constantly bombarded, because sometimes we have ups and downs and it's not always about you. And it wasn't until, and I apologize to my exes for being this toxic guy too, but it wasn't until I've met somebody that can have the patience to do that. Yeah. But I also had to go through my own quote-unquote training and healing to understand of, like, my therapist, the first thing she's like, you have this type of attachment style. This is not healthy. It needs to go over here to confidence. And I'm like, what's that? And I kind of learn about it. And, like, obviously having that kind of attachment style, it comes from things like trauma. Oh, yeah. And no matter what, like you said, it will rear its ugly head no matter how much you try to hide it.
I'm avoidant, so I'm with you on this. I'm avoidant attachment. So my whole thing was, red flag, run. Not, maybe we should talk about this and work it out. No. Again, sorry to anyone I dated this year, because I was doing that. It wasn't until I met someone recently, and we're just friends, but he basically was like, why do you do that? And I'm like, oh.
But I've gained the ability through my healing to check myself.
Which is good.
And, like, this weekend, we had some other stuff happen, like nothing super bad. But then I started seeing in myself my attachment coming through. I was, like, the next day I texted her. She wasn't texting me back for a couple hours. Immediately I was going on like, oh my God, is she mad at me? And then I was like, I just asked myself those questions when there was no reason to ask myself those questions.
Yeah.
There's no reason why she should be mad at me right now. There's no reason why there should be anything bad going on at this moment. Why am I doing this? And then it turns out she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I slept in today. And I'm like,
and then you realize,
okay, cool. And then that's when I'm like, I have to catch myself on those moments. I have to realize that, like,
at least you did catch yourself, though.
Yeah.
That means what you're going through and what therapy and everything is actually working, because not many people can catch themselves.
One of my biggest things when I first got into relationships, and it got me from going from anxious, like, towards that thing from anxious to confidence, is this thing that I call the trust cliff. And what it is basically is it's how I make it to where you can live the most independent life that you can without me worrying.
Yeah.
Because I'm confident in myself. I know my abilities as a boyfriend or as a partner. I know what I can offer to the table.
Yeah.
I know how valuable that is. And so I'll tell them, I'm like, look, I have this thing called a trust cliff. I'm not like, that's not like an interview thing. I go, by the way, before you date me, we're going to talk about this.
Here's
but
the cliff. No,
it's like, I have this cliff, and on this cliff, you can do whatever the hell you want. You can talk to guys. You can hang out with people. I'm not going to control your social life. I'm not going to control anything about you. I know there's some girls that like that, but I'm like, that's not me.
Yeah.
For me, I want you to have your own independent life. I want you to hang out with whoever. I know there's probably guys in your life that came in before me, and that, like, I don't know what kind of relationship you guys have had, but for me, I'm like, I trust that you're not going to step over the boundary line. I trust that you're going to remain faithful, that you're going to tell me the truth, that you're going to remain loyal. I will find out if you don't.
Because we always find out.
Yes, it's just something that happens, whether you want to believe it in the Christian way with, like, God hates infidelity.
Yeah.
Or you just want people suck at keeping big shit from other people that they
The universe has a way of showing its ugly head when it needs to.
And it's like the second that you do that, you fall off that cliff, you're not getting helped back up.
Yeah.
The second that you step over that line of betrayal or that boundary, that's it. I gave you the entire cliff to run around on and do whatever you want. You lost a good guy, though, because you decided to jump off that cliff.
Well, and then you never turn back, because that person will always remember that they lost a good one.
Exactly. But because of that, I've been able to have relationships where it's like, hey, I'm going to go out with the girls tonight. Cool, have fun.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I'm going to go have lunch with my buddy or one of my guy friends this weekend. Awesome. Tell him I said hi.
Yep.
Tell him if he wants to do a double date, I'm down. Or tell him if he wants a guy to hang out with, hit me up or something. Like, it's been able to have that. And that was like my first transition from having that anxious to confident. Like, you know what? I know what I can offer. There's 4 billion girls on this planet. I'm sure one of them is going to actually appreciate what they have at this moment. They're not just going to think with their vagina or want to cater to some other guy.
Well, and that's the thing too, like, oh man, and this just happened, but like with my attachment issue and me wanting to run away, it's because I don't like to face the pain, because I don't like pain. So when I finally dealt with this one guy and he was like, why do you do this? And he made me really reevaluate the way I handled things. This whole year has been like me kind of going, well, I know this is a red flag from this guy. I'm still going to deal with it, because I like to be with people that like weren't good for me, like that weren't for me, because I didn't actually think I wanted to be with someone. So once my friend kind of pointed this out to me, now I'm on this space of like, I've always liked being alone. I was alone for like 3 years for a good minute. I am someone that loves relationships, and I'm looking to be with someone, but I'm not like looking.
Yeah.
I'm open to the idea, but I also know that like, I'm a very interesting person. There's a level of like bringing two different people together and making it work, and it's work. So you got to be able to have another job, because it's your relationship.
Absolutely.
And you have to know that like someone will fuck up eventually. It might not be cheating, it might not be in that regard, but when you're with someone forever, if you end up with that person forever, there is going to be fuck ups.
Oh yeah.
But you got to be able to like handle being honest, and then you got to be able to understand that that person was honest. And if they were honest, then you can figure out a way to work it out, or you figure out where the problem is and you go boop boop, But relationships for me are hard, because I'm like a lone wolf at times too. As you get older too, like they say you push friends away and stuff, and I don't agree with that. I think it's more of you just outgrow certain people.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's a matter of like remembering the people that have stuck around with you, remembering like who you are, and never losing yourself in a relationship, because that was always my issue.
Oh yeah, that was a big thing. I remember I was going to move to Bullhead City with my ex when I wanted to still be in entertainment and everything, just because it was gonna be easier for her. And I was like, I can do something. Because I was in finance at that time, so I was like, I can work at a bank or something in Bullhead. But I would literally bend over backwards to make sure that they're accommodated for, and it was like the most disgusting thing ever.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, well, let's talk about this. Like, what are the opportunities that you're trying to chase? What are the opportunities I'm trying to chase? Can we meet somewhere in the middle, or are you just stuck over here? And I don't know. There's just like a whole thing with communication, a whole thing with, I don't know, communication. That was one of the biggest hurdles I've had to jump through with partners, because for me, I'm overly communicative.
Oh, I'm the same way. It's annoying to people.
But for me, I say that because it's how I create honesty. It's how I create vulnerability. I'd rather be overly honest and stuff, and for you to be like, I know that you're not lying because you tell me anything. I know that nothing else happened, or else you would have told me. Yeah. Like for me, I have the worst guilt bones in my body. If I do even something that could remotely upset my girlfriend, I immediately tell her. Yeah. Like, I went on and sent this podcast to every person in my phone. Yeah. And I just so happened to have a couple of extra numbers, but I sent it to everyone. I'm like, well, maybe someone else has her number now, and it could be some stranger gets into this podcast. But then I told her, I'm like, oh, by the way, this happened. And if you have an understanding partner, it's like, well, I understand you weren't having intentions behind it. It does make me uncomfortable, so can you not do it? Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. And I don't know, there's like instances like that. Like, I've done that my whole life. Like, oh, this happened, and my ex would be like, why are you telling me this? Yeah. Well, because you're being honest. And I think, like, for me, I dated a couple squares in the last year where they don't communicate at all, and you're like sitting there going, because I think I started developing an anxious attachment a little bit, where I was like, what is this? Why am I like in my head going, what are they doing? Why are they not texting me? Okay, so they said they were doing this, but then they never sent me this. Well, what the hell? And then it's like, what? You sit there and you go, hold on a second. Who are you? Yeah. Why do you care about this other person as much as you do? Right. Why are you allowing them to control your thought process right now? You must be getting triggered by something. This is what is probably really happening. And if they are doing something shady, which they were, then you're going to find out. Yeah. And if you don't like it, leave. But say it. Because I was not communicating. I was just running away. But it's a tough circle to go in, and it's having that ability to be independent enough to leave and realizing that this person isn't your whole world. Yeah. Sometimes a person could be there for a little bit to teach you a lesson, but you have to learn how to differentiate them from being your entire world. Yeah. Because that's happened to me too many times where I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever going to find a partner again. Or I don't know, like, are they, I thought they were meant for me. I thought that this was meant to be and stuff. And I look back now and I'm like, they were definitely not meant for me. But it's having that ability to be like, I know there's someone out there for me. And maybe it's not even the right time for me to be with that person. Maybe I need to develop myself to find that. And that was actually the process of me getting with someone healthy, is like, you have to be worthy yourself of this. You cannot be like, I want a healthy boyfriend or girlfriend, someone that's this, if you're not healthy yourself. Because what are you bringing to the table? Yeah. That's something people don't look at. It's if you're not healthy, if you're not healed, if you're not okay yourself, and you want somebody else. It's like when a girl's like, I want my Prince Charming, I want this, and it's like, but you sleep with every guy that you see, and you get overly attached, and you do this and do that. Or even a guy, it's like, I want a girl who I don't have to worry about other guys about and stuff. It's like, well, who are you constantly surrounding yourself with? Also, everyone's gonna look at everyone. Yeah. I'm sorry. Especially look at social media now. There's half-naked people everywhere you look. So you gotta be okay with the fact that your person is not gonna do something. Right. But I do agree with you on that. Yeah, but it was that thing, like, for me, I was like, I want someone who's loyal, who's communicative, who's trusting, who trusts me, and who has patience. Because you need a lot of patience to be with me, because I go through crazy ups and downs and stuff. But I'm the same. But in order to even remotely be in the mind frame to be with somebody like that, I have to be worthy of that person.
Yeah.
And for me, it's an instance of like, God's not going to put me with somebody who he doesn't think is worthy. Like, he's not going to damage someone else so that I can be healed.
Well, you attract what you are.
Yes.
In my thoughts, because I go more towards, I believe in God, but I also believe in like universe, and I think
Right.
you attract what you are in the sense of, if I'm putting out there that I want all this stuff, but then I am not fully healed, and I just left a relationship 2 months ago, running away, not even communicating to the guy. What do you think I'm going to get next? Same person,
Yes.
different body, different storyline to make you realize the story that you didn't finish before,
Yes.
you got to finish it again.
Energy attracts energy.
Yep. So if you want to be in a healthy, beautiful relationship, you need to make sure you're in one, you're right, with yourself first, because then you'll attract that same person.
Yes.
And it will be the right time.
Yes.
Because when it's never the right time, it usually means that one of you is not there yet, or it's a job situation, but that's
Right.
like, usually it's one of you is not there yet.
That's ironic, because I've known this girl for going on 3 or 4 years, and we have tried a couple different times possibly for a relationship, but it never worked out. It wasn't until we both went through all the bullshit relationships and then had that period of learning about ourselves and what we want and realizing my partner has that, or this person has that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like I wanted to be with her before, and I was pissed off and like heartbroken and stuff when she didn't want the same thing, and I'm like, okay, well, whatever, fine, I don't need her then. But then I healed myself, and I was just like, oh wow. And then literally out of the blue, she texts me and she said, hey, it's been a while since we've talked. We talked, and then I was just like, boom. And then she saw a change in me and all this, and then it's kind of like
You had a little revelation right there.
Exactly.
Where you're both like, oh, you've been here this entire time.
Yeah.
Which is usually how it works with the right people.
Exactly. And sometimes you have, like, even with friendships, I've had friendships where I'm like, we took a break from our friendship for a while, but then we're stronger than ever because we both had to grow separate for a little bit to come together. Because sometimes that path isn't always exactly parallel for the entire time.
Totally true.
Sometimes it starts here, goes way out here for a little bit, and then comes right back here.
And it hurts when you're younger because you think, oh my God, like that person's gone in my life forever. And then I have so many friends when I lived in New York, because I'm from AZ, where I came back after I was in New York for 6.5 years and LA for a year and a half, something like that. I came back, and all of these people I would just run into and become friends with.
Right.
Like, wouldn't be in Creative Collective if it wasn't for Anthony, who I've known since I was 18.
Right.
It's weird how, like, certain people will pop back up in your life, and you go, oh, crap. Wow. It works that way. Because, and it's I think what it is you just let it go.
Yeah.
You don't think too much. You allow things to just happen for you. If you want it enough, you put it out in the universe, and then you say, okay. And then if it doesn't come, something better came.
Well, you also can't chase. There was this video.
Sure.
It was like a spiritual video that I was watching. It's like, you cannot receive while you're demanding, or like while you're doing this. It's a give and take thing. You can't be like desiring for something and receiving. Those are two completely polar opposite things.
Because then you're having two energies bounce back off of each other. So then the universe is like, I don't know what you want me to do.
Yeah, it's pretty much, it's like a pouring out a container.
Yeah.
Like, you have to stop the liquid coming out for a second to let air in.
Well, and then you need to make sure that you know exactly what you want. Because there's a lot of people in this world that are like, I want to be famous. And you're like, okay, sit down. Do you want paparazzi to be sitting outside your door
Do you
every
want to never have privacy again?
day? Yeah. Do you want to get someone to like know your backstory of every relationship you've been in? Do you want people to maybe be able to see you naked one day? Like, there are things that you have to make sure you're okay with it. And you have to be talked about in tabloids and on social media about lies. Constant lies, because that's what builds your social circle. That's what
your DMs are bad now.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the amount of death threats to even the nicest celebrities, like, how fucking dare you did this? And it's like, I didn't do anything. And it's like, that's why a lot of celebrities don't even check their DMs.
No.
It's like half of it is slut shaming,
or they have people that are on their Instagram doing it for them. They're not even they don't even care. Like, it's so when people say that to me, because a lot of people ask me like, why aren't you famous already? I look at them and I'm like, because I didn't really want to be like, I don't mind being known. I don't mind being well known. I don't mind being famous if it means like I get to do podcasts and talk to people and hang out and shoot the shit and say shit that I've done so other people know that they're not alone. I'm a degenerate for sure. But I don't want to be that person that's like on every billboard that's doing every materialistic marketing thing that they could do.
Right.
And then going and like having to make up a whole story about their life when in reality, you're just a fucking human.
See, I want to be... For me, I want to be Keanu Reeves famous, not Kim Kardashian famous.
Yeah.
Like, to the point to where it's like, when my movies come out, you want to see it because I'm like Leo famous. Where it's like, yeah, he's been in the tabloids and stuff, but he's not constantly in it 24/7. But still, if he releases a movie, it's going to be one of the most watched movies in the world.
Because he's fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But any little thing that happens with Kim Kardashian, Instagram knows about it, TMZ knows about it, all these places know about it. I'm like, no, I don't need to be famous. I don't care about the fame.
The fame part doesn't matter. And I think I posted something about this the other day because I don't even really care about the fame part. I just want to be able to influence a group of people that will change the world for the better with whatever way I can do that, because there's people out there that need to be awakened and all they need is voices like ours to make a difference. That's like why in movies, like certain movies will just trigger something in you to change something about yourself and the world.
Right.
And so I think that's where we all got to be more aware of why we're doing things. Because the younger generation, they have this tool, TikTok. I don't even use it. I had it for a second and I went, ew. It's making it to where you're making a crap ton of money posting videos of you half naked dancing or doing stupid things. You're losing your brain cells by not focusing on the reality of what are you giving to the world.
See, I had my own reality check with the whole fame question because, like, when I was first getting into acting, I was like, oh, why am I not booking anything? Like, I just want to live this life. It'd be awesome to do this full time. Then I had to check back and be like, if some sort of magical fairy came and was like, poof, you can have it, would I be able to sustain this life? Because for me, I want my success in this industry to be sustained. I don't want it to be a one-time thing. I want it to be like Leo, like Johnny Depp, like these people that have it over decades. Like they are in it for the long run. And I was like, would I be able to sustain everything if it were given to me right now? And I'm like, fuck no, I couldn't.
Right.
The amount of business stuff I would have to deal with, the amount of tabloid, like you said, paparazzi, the amount of...
You got to get a PR agent to hide every bad thing you've ever done in your life.
You don't technically vacation ever,
no,
really, anymore.
No.
Like, I think it was like Paris Hilton. In her documentary, she's like, yeah, like, obviously she travels everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
But she says, like, yeah, I haven't actually taken a vacation in 6 years because it's just work constantly.
Well, yeah, because you go on vacation and then you book something and then you're obviously going to take it because if you turn it down, you look like an asshole. Unfortunately, that's like how people look at you. That's why, like, I think in today's age, it's like we got to change the system where you got to take more control as the artist. I think that's why anyone that controls you, you're just going to be a puppet.
Yeah.
And you're going to, be perceived as whatever that character that you're playing look like, as opposed to just being yourself.
Exactly.
Like Robert Pattinson, I think he's awesome because he's such an amazing actor.
Oh, yeah.
And yet he's famous, but you don't see a crap ton of stuff about him either. And it's nice because you're like, oh man, even the Kristen Stewart stuff, all that shit for a second, and he just didn't say anything. And it's one of those things where you go, that's an artist. Well, that's an artist. Because if you don't say anything, they have nothing to feed off of. And the lies that they create eventually will be taken down because, defamation, they'll get sued if they don't.
Right.
So, yeah.
Like, it does suck with some people. They get, like, the rape allegations, and sometimes they're not true, sometimes they are true.
Yeah.
But eventually, I feel like the good comes to light.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Even if, like, 6 people come out and say, like, oh, you did this to me, and it's not true. Eventually, if you just let the system play itself out, people will be like, oh, this person was arrested for false allegations against this person because they wanted money.
Yeah.
Or because of this. And it's like, what is your opinion on this? And they're like, I don't have an opinion. I mean, I didn't do it.
I don't know what you want from me. Because if you start to, like, when you see people who are guilty and they'll start to, like, oh, well, this is blah, 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 and they just start talking a lot.
Yeah.
And you look at someone and you're like, if you were not guilty, you would just go ahead and do it.
Right.
Because, like...
And that disclaimer, that whole thing with the rape thing, it's not to say anything that all rape allegations are not true. I'm saying specifically for the ones that have happened.
Because there have been where they're not true.
Yes.
And there's people that like to take advantage of people who are famous.
They've finally gone through and they've admitted, oh, I just wanted money. Or I was drunk or something, or
Yeah.
someone looked like him and I could have sworn it was him.
Yeah.
Like, I'm specifically talking about those. I completely respect and everything actual rape victims, and my heart goes out to you. So that has nothing to do with that. I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there before I get canceled.
Totally fine. You will never get cancel culture.
Yes.
Come at me. Sorry, not sorry, but sorry. Because I'm one of those people. I've had friends that had fake rape allegations put on them, and they're men.
Me too.
And they're men, and I was there during certain things, and I was like, that didn't happen.
Oh yeah.
That didn't happen. So I
I've
had to
talked to the women who've done the false allegations. And I'm like, do you realize what? And they're like, he'll get over it. It's fine.
And it's like, no, because that's going to be on their record, and then that ruins their career, and then that ruins them as a person because they didn't like you.
Yeah.
That's just sad.
It's disgusting type of like I've literally talked in like this another disclaimer. This is just stuff personally that's happened to me. Like I've had girls that I've talked to. It's like I said that it didn't exactly happen like this, but he pissed me off and cheated on me with this person. So to get back at him, I said that he raped me, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, it's insane.
I'm like, yes, be pissed that he cheated on you. Cool, I don't give a shit. But when you're turning around, deflect that shit. Move on. That person wasn't meant for you. You don't have to ruin their life.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care how bad they cheated on you or who they cheated on you with.
I've been cheated on a lot, and I must say, I lashed out once recently about it, and I think it was just to communicate, to understand, like, did it actually happen? But I think this is a pointer to everyone that's listening. If you get cheated on, move the fuck on.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
It's as simple as that, because there's something missing, maybe not from you, but from that person, and you'll never change it, and once a cheater, always a cheater. I've cheated when I was younger, and I had cheated again after because I hadn't healed whatever it was that was causing me to cheat.
Yes.
And then once I did heal it, I'm like, nah, that's not who I am. But once a cheater, always a cheater.
Yeah.
But never fucking ruin someone's life because they cheated. I mean, people suck.
Yeah.
Not all, but there's a lot of people that they suck because they haven't healed themselves, which caters back to what we were saying. Therapy is a thing.
And obviously, I've definitely seen tables turn to where it's she's saying I raped her. And it's like, well, what happened? It's like, well, she was unconscious. And it's like, dude, that's fucking rape.
That's rape, yeah.
And I'm like, and he's like, oh, for me, I'm like, no, I want to knock you the fuck out. I don't care how long I've known you. I don't care.
Oh, yeah.
I want to fucking kill you right now.
Yeah.
Or like, you realize I am going to the cops about this.
Totally.
Like I've helped out females that are like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, worst case scenario, they get a visit from me.
Yeah.
And they're going to wish they got the police instead of me. And
I've definitely turned in a guy for doing something of that nature.
Yeah.
And the girl was like, I don't want that to happen. And I was like, I'm sorry. I'm not going to let this guy be on the streets doing this to other women.
And unfortunately, the whole crime system with things like rape
what were you wearing? What, it's all that stuff where you look at them and you go, I was a human being in a situation that I shouldn't have been in, and it doesn't matter because this is what happened.
And it pisses me off. Like, I know a lot of people of sexual assault and all that kind of stuff, and there is no justice because maybe the person has connections to something, or there wasn't enough thing, or it's like, oh, you showered within 3 hours, and it's like, well, no, she fucking showered within 3 hours.
It's like Armie Hammer. Have you seen that documentary? It's new, and it's I think it's on HBO, but it's like he basically was doing rapey things and being a sketchball, and he got away with it because his whole family had been these types of men, and because they have money and got him out of it, these women that were raped or abused, whatever he did to them, he got away with it and it was okay.
Right.
And it's like, you look at stuff like that and you think like, what the fuck? And then you look at Harvey Weinstein and you look at how that system back in the day was also like that. And it's like, we're all awakened to the things that are happening. And yet certain things still aren't being changed, which means that our generation needs to change them. Yeah. Because the older generations are so used to it that they can't change it. So now our generation has to go, well, that's not going to work. How can we fix this? This needs to change. I don't care what your last name is. I don't care if you have money.
Right.
Like, it's like when kids get DUIs and they're like, oh, my dad's a lawyer, and they're like, I got off, huh? And you're like, oh. And they get in 4 of them and they kill someone on the 4th one. Yeah. You're like, that person's life would have probably been alive if that kid had been put in freaking Tent City over summer eating green eggs and ham. Not that that's a thing anymore, but I loved when it was. Yeah. Because you learn not to be a jackass.
Exactly. I know, and it pisses me off when I see parents that allow stuff like that to happen. Like, I didn't want my kid's life ruined. It's like, you ruined it even more now, though, because you didn't let society and life actually teach them lessons, because
Yeah.
what's going to happen in 20 years if you have a heart attack or something and now they don't have mommy or daddy to come bail them out, or they don't have this type of connection anymore? They're going to be like, oh shit, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
This is the actual consequence of something like this happening. Oh geez, okay, I didn't realize. And then reality has to check in with them when they're 60 years old.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what happened? I thought you were Mr. Playboy model. And it's like, well, I fucked up one time and my dad cut me off or something, or I no longer do this. And it's like, cool, you helped him at first in his 20s, but now you fucked him for the rest of his life.
Well, then he can make a comeback like Robert Downey Jr., which I actually love that man as well.
Oh my gosh.
Because that man went through a lot, and he was a toxic individual in his 20s. And then, or maybe it was his 30s, I don't remember. But I know now that, like, he talks about it too, and he's like, the person I am now. Because I do think we all fuck up, and you should be forgiven, but you do need to do the time. You do need to go through.
You need to go through the consequence.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to be an overprivileged individual that you're going to eventually be alone, because no one likes an overprivileged person.
Right.
Or unless you're overprivileged and you hang out with overprivileged people, but that's besides the point.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, I've taken up a lot of your time. I know I was saying an hour, but
that's fine. I like to talk.
Luckily we have a little bit of time until you said your band practice. So,
yeah.
I appreciate you so much coming on. This was definitely a super fun conversation.
Yeah,
Usually I'm prepared with questions and stuff, but there was something about you. I was like, I don't need to have fucking questions. This is gonna be able to flow.
It's the flow. Yeah. Thank you so much for asking me to be on it, because I honestly love podcasts.
I everyone has a story for me, and it's like, I don't care if you're as big as Jay-Z or if you're as small as the guy sitting on the corner.
Yeah.
Like, everyone has their story, and that's what kind of captivates people.
Oh yeah.
So I love, and for me, I'm an art person, and I can already, just by looking at you, just by hearing you, I can tell that art is a huge part of your life, and I respect the ever-living shit out of that. So.
Thank you. And I respect you for being an artist. And
thank you.
Just remember with your acting, like, don't ever give up, because your rejection is your protection.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm going to remember that. I'm going to write that on my board at home. Rejection is protection.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been such a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And we will definitely come back at some point in the future.
I'm excited.
And kind of revisit. But until then, I'm going to let you do your thing.
Okay. My name's Taylor Costello, and I've been unmasked.